talks about the following issues. How do you think they have changed in the last 10 to 20 years? Teenage pregnancy, teen parenting, single parent families, and men raising children.
Well, I think so for teen pregnancy, obviously everyone's like, oh, it ruins your future. I don't necessarily think it ruins it, it just alters it completely. And this kind of goes back to Juno, how she like makes the decision and the father is still not in it. So I think that kind of related to back to the book that Sam wasn't even like part of the discussion on adoption.
Yeah, everyone's opinions on teen pregnancy are always going to be different, but nowadays it kind of seems like it's more supported or like more like out there just because of all the shows like 16 and Pregnant and Teen Mom, and like I feel like some of it like it seemed like as a joke, like something that you can just advertise on TV just to get money for like your pregnancy.
I agree with you when you were saying that it's like becoming like more like common, not like common, but like more like out there or whatever. Because in the book on page 29 it said that there were a bunch, like they listed a bunch of people that were in the same program as Sam, like what they were saying and stuff, and so there were like a lot of people that were like in that had a kid and stuff. So I think that that's more common. Like they had this program in place because it was happening.
Yeah, going off of what both of you said, like how it's becoming more common and like out there, maybe even go as far to say it's being supported. I think it's like well past the time anyone could be like value neutral, either like you're kind of for it or you're against it. Like it's kind of seen as like an epidemic, like societally people look at it as a bad thing, and that's why, or like some people look at it as a bad thing, some people are supporting.
I think that in the last like 10 to 20 years, the like viewpoint on teenage pregnancy and teen parenting, I mean obviously it's still looked like down upon, but I think it's changed quite a bit because like in the first movie we watched, I don't remember, it was like Riding in Cars with Boys or something like that. When she gets pregnant, she like freaks out, doesn't know how to tell her mom, and then like he proposes, so they like it was kind of like more common for them, like they have to get married. Like back then it was like, well, if you're having a baby, like you have to get married. And then in Juno it was like kind of the opposite, like her boyfriend was just like, well, so what now, like what do we do? But I just think it's changing in that sense where it's not as like you have to get married, and that kind of goes with the single parent families too.
Yeah, going off like what Tiffany said, like in the first movie, Riding in Cars with Boys, and the dad was like really pushing it towards like getting married, like that's what you have to do or else like it's not like socially acceptable to be pregnant. But like in Juno, like she's pregnant and it's like no big deal kind of.
Going to like men raising children, they said like okay, kind of like according to like the article that we read about men raising children, like when this was written, society was still like accepting the fact that more men are starting to raise children, and like kind of what Mr. Perry said when he raised his daughter up in Canada, there weren't a lot of groups, but I think as time goes on, there are more groups. So like 10 to 20 years ago, it probably was like seldomly heard of, but now as time goes on, now it's probably heard of more because it also has a lot to do with single parent families, because divorce rate is so up there, and so there's a lot more like different parents raising children, and so I just think it's the rate that it's going up is going up a lot.
I agree with you with that in such a way that the article we read, I know there is a bunch of statistics and how society supposedly still thinks that moms can be better parents than dads. But I think that now, over the next like 10 or like in the last 10 to 20 years, that's changed dramatically. Because like you're saying, the divorce rates have gone up higher. But also, I think that now stores and companies are now changing over to being like more mom-dad friendly, saying like the dads are going to take over. Like Mr. Ferry, he left the company for General Mills to go take over his kids, and that's now I think showing that that now companies nowadays are caring for the moms and they're paying the same, and it's not like anti-sexism anymore like it used to be.
And I looked up the statistic for divorce rates right now in the U.S. The divorce rate is between 40 to 50% of all marriages, and obviously many of these marriages are from families with children. So I think society has kind of been forced to become more accommodating to single-parent families and accept those as more of not necessarily the norm because they're still in the minority, but that it's still an acceptable way of parenting.
I agree with Ryan and what he was saying about like how moms are treated like they know how to do it better. And I think on the very bottom it says, how does this relate to gender stereotypes discussion that we had? And I said that like in the video that we watched, it talked about like commercials portraying dads as always like kind of clueless and like the stupid and the funny one, and how that is like a stereotype and it's not really fair because fathers are usually treated as they're like clueless because it was always considered more of like the woman's job to stay home with like the kids.
Yeah, going off what Tiffany was saying, there's like a lot of movies and TV shows that show dads as being like the funny, non-disciplined type, and like the TV show Modern Family, the dad is kind of portrayed as like the stupid or like the more fun parent, and like same with Big Daddy, like obviously he doesn't really know what to do, so he's just kind of there and he just kind of wings it half the time.
Well, I think that now people are a lot more accepting of men raising children because the couple commercials that we watch is like people have, they're kind of starting to realize that a lot of men do raise children. They're starting to kind of recognize them for kind of their sacrifices that in the past it was just kind of expected of the women to do. So I think like they're now just more accepting and kind of supportive of men raising kids. And on the topic of the single parent families, it's also more accepted to be a single parent and wanting a family because like now you see a lot of single people that are trying to adopt kids or that are kind of just trying to have kids without being married. So, and it's not really frowned upon, at least as much anymore.
I agree with what everyone's been saying about like how society's becoming more accepting of men raising children and stuff. But I feel like you still hear in like a lot of custody, like court cases and stuff, it's like the norm